Miss Reagan, right?
Yes.
It's my pleasure to meet your acquaintance today. Completely unexpected, and I'm honored, to say the least. Um, I really cannot go into detail, unfortunately, because I have no counsel with me, and I've been provided strict instruction, and I must abide by that, and I hope you understand. But oh my gosh, I'm overjoyed, overwhelmed, all of it. Like it's it's all a lot to take in.
Right. So, why are they accusing you then?
That's a great question. Um, and I'm sure there are many questions just the same. I just have to allow the due process.
So, say if it wasn't you, do you have any idea who it is?
Me personally, I don't. Um, I would hope that with all of the professionals that we have in our community of law enforcement, um, they will be able to get to the bottom of um, every inquiry that the community has, including yourself and every other affiliated, media station. Um, I'm very well sure that we have the best and brightest in order to deliver um, the answers that the community seeks.
So you're saying that we're not going to receive any answers from you from the community, both the victims, APD. Is that what you're saying?
Ms. Reagan, yes, I have to leave it to the proper channels that you mentioned that you've already reached out to and spoken with, and leave it up to them in order to facilitate any information to you until I get permission from my counsel.
And are you saying that you're not guilty of this? Is that what you're going to say in trial or in court? Is that what you're going after? You're not guilty. You didn't do this?
I would have to wait until, again, I get with my proper counsel to provide, and I'm sure you understand this, Ms. Reagan. I know that you're not in your position without good reason. So, with all due respect to you and your team, um, and again, I mean, you look great on camera, all of it. Like, congratulations on your success, all of it. But yes, ma'am, I have to wait until I get with proper counsel to to provide the correct response.
So tell me about your counsel, because at first you had a court appointed attorney, and now you got one. So tell me a little bit about that. Can you answer that?
And I would rebut that question with the same information that you have that you're able to um, obtain as public knowledge is about as far as I can go with it. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever you have located or the changes that you've seen regarding the situation, um, I'm about at the same position as you are. So just as those new developments come along, I'm getting those new developments just as you are. So we're growing as this story is developing. We're growing with more information together. So I'm just waiting as well.
So we've already talked to a couple of victims from that night. Is there anything you want to say to them?
Godspeed.
Godspeed. And is there anything you want to say to the public that you want us to know?
To the public, I just would appreciate any concern that is helpful. As it would be, just as you have prayer requests and those who seek for the outcome to be um, positive. thanks to all those in the public who wish to see the best outcome in this case.
We have video of you getting taken into custody and then released. What was the reason for letting you go?
Great question, Miss Reagan. And this is again why I say I'm under strict, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a lot of questions I still have myself, to be honest.
What are some of those questions?
The same, I have to go through the council channel with those inquiries, and you know, it's a lot of that. You know, I guess you can call it legal process that I have to deal with right now, but I'm working on it.
And you know, cops said that you were acting strange. Their canines alerted for drugs in your apartment. They found THC during the search. Was any of that yours? Was that originally why they took you into custody?
I would have to say that anything that was found, anything that is had, and you can even say anything that was had, it has proper proof of purchase, and is within Texas guidelines. It's permissible. So anything that was discovered or anything, you know, therein or what have you, they are well aware, and they have their necessary proof to show supporting evidence that it is legitimate. So.
Right. So it's prescription then?
I would have to leave it up to same like what we mentioned, any public record that you may have on that, whatever you may be able to discover on that. But I know that they have what they need in order to classify it as legitimate.
Right. And so they also found more magazines and more ammo. So that means that it was yours. It's yours?
The same, I would have to speak with my counsel, as I would hope you would understand, Ms. Reagan.
Right, because you had just said that like it was within your legal right, everything that was found. So that means it's
correct.
Yours and you have a right to own it, right?
Exactly as you mentioned, it is within the guidelines, Texas state guidelines. And you would even have to go as far as to say national, you know, federal. These guidelines I take very seriously. So I make sure that we are all in compliance before I even leave out and do anything. Everyone is aware of my movement. It's that critical with me. So everything is, like I say, everything is within proper reason. The council and law enforcement, the whole justice system has been nothing but fantastic throughout the whole process. I mean, they've dealt with it with the utmost professionalism, and there's no ill comment to make toward them about this process. Everything is, I feel like, is just as I mentioned, is the due process that has to take place, and you know, I'm just thankful. I'm humble, and I'm appreciative.
So where are you at in this situation? How are you feeling about everything? What's going through your mind right now?
Right now, I wonder what's for dinner, to be completely honest.
Why do you think the suspect did this?
You know, I'm not sure, and I'm pretty sure this is why they, you know, look to get into the minds. This is what I say. I mean, the last news report I heard was Neuralink, that they actually had a test subject that went through and put a chip in their brain. You know, I I mean, we're in the future. It's here, and that's pretty well the last frontier is the human brain. So once they crack that code, I mean, there will be no reason to even have these conversations. It'll already be like what we mentioned, public knowledge. It'll be at that point at the discretion of the authority to disclose whatever information that they now have access to, with or without your consent. So with all of that being said, me personally, I can't speak on, but I do know that there are strides being made toward preventing these type of situations from, you know, if you can kind of follow my train of thought with that, for it to not be as much as, like what they say, a reporter-client relationship or counsel-client relationship. It's more or less something that they have the information. Now it's just a matter of what's within their permission to release.
So we have video of police taking your handgun from you. Do you normally carry?
Absolutely.
Why is that?
Within my right.
Do you have any other firearms?
With this one, I would as well go back to say I would have to speak with counsel. I have no issue regarding it's the same. I have no issue answering this question as if it were, do you have a driver's license? Okay, yes, I have a driver's license, right? I mean, these are licenses that I feel like is every citizen's responsibility to maintain, as if and when you make a certain age criteria to maintain these articles. It's a, what do they call it? Like car insurance, for example. You have to maintain a financial responsibility in order to continue. And I just see it that way. Just like I mentioned, I take everything very seriously when it comes.
Are you comfortable standing? Are you sure you don't want to sit down?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for asking. Thank you very much for asking that. Also, I appreciate it.
So police say they also found an AR rifle with a scope. Is that yours?
On this respect, I'd have to also speak with my counsel to see, just like what we mentioned.
Right. Wow, this is really shocking. So you really don't know who could have done it, or do you know who has done it? Was anybody else with you that night?
Exactly the same as you mentioned. I'm not exactly sure on any of the details, as I'm waiting for those new developments to come across my attention as well. And I have as well I guess you could say like a waiting period is the best way to express that, where as you don't get as much information as you would like to get in one sitting, now I have to wait until their off days, and then the next visitation day, and then the weekend to pass, all of that, like what I mentioned, the due process. So I'm still waiting for the new developments, just as you are, Ms. Reagan. And again, I do appreciate your interest and your inquiries. And just as soon as I am able to speak more on the subject, with the permission of my counsel, know that I will speak to you. No problem.
Awesome. I mean, this was really about just wanting your side of things. You know, we've had
Yes, ma'am.
a lot of, we've seen the court documents, we've heard from the victims, we've seen video of evidence getting taken from your apartment. We really wanted to know your side of the story.
Well, I appreciate you wanting to get the complete and total story and not leaving it to be one-sided. However, as I mentioned, just per the instructions that I received, I just have to remain in compliance with my counsel. And then once I get the proper clearance, I can reassure you, Ms. Reagan, if I'm permitted to, I will have a one-on-one with you personally, and to make sure you get all of the information that I can give.
Right. So if you aren't the gunman and police found a bullet in a tree across from your apartment, how did that get there?
I would leave it up to the authority, the law enforcement, to make that determination.
Mm-hmm. And you know, people are kind of mad at you. How does that make you feel?
Again, I don't know. This is another thing that I consider greatly is the timing, and I know that the moon has a lot to do with emotion, and the timing would make sense for the public to feel that way, if that makes sense. So we're now on the other side of this full moon, and the tides are subsiding. So with time, with due process, I'm sure more information will come to the light. And again, once I receive information and permission from council, we will continue with the information, and I would consider it to even be an interview. Again, I very much appreciate your time, Ms. Reagan.
Is there anything else you want to add?
Again, just thank you. I'm humbled and appreciative of all of those who are concerned for the best outcome. And again, Godspeed to anyone else who feels, just as you mentioned before, and in due time we'll just wait to see the justice system and its process and how it carries itself out in the end.
So you brought up the moon, emotions, and tides. Is that also a reasoning behind the shooter's actions as well? Do you think the shooter acted off their emotions that day?
That I couldn't speak on. I wouldn't know personally.
Right. So right now you're really just waiting it out for authorities and the justice system. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Just as you mentioned, there is an order of operations, and that's just the timeline that we're on right now. It's just the justice system's order of operations through to completion. So the patience is definitely required now, and just being considerate, open-minded, and just waiting.
And do you think you're going to be found innocent?
Only time will tell. And again, that's what I seek for everyone's prayers in the matter, because these situations are as delicate as a judge's decision that could be one way or the other, and right or wrong is a matter of perspective, but we could say that the entire course of the outcome falls on the decision of the judge and the jury. So for these decisions and the high magnitude of those decisions being placed on those, we just pray that they're able to make proper determination.
Right. And so what evidence do you have to prove that you're innocent? Because there's a lot of things that are going against you right now.
That's where our counsel comes in. And again, is why I mentioned I really am at the mercy of the counsel's permission to even speak any further, to move forward in the process on my behalf. It's in stride with my counsel every step of the way.
Right, so you're fully dependent on your counsel, right?
As I am with the justice system and the entire process. Yes, ma'am.
Do you trust that?
This is what it is. I mean, this is what happens. These systems are in place for this reason, and you have to go with it. You have to.
Right, it seems like you have no choice at this moment.
Exactly.
Is there anything you want to tell your friends or your family?
No, I wouldn't. wouldn't seek to speak to anyone in particular, but again, just Godspeed to everyone who has wishes for the best outcome in the situation. May God continue to bless their lives and fulfill anything that they feel that they need. Family, friends, like we were talking about food. I mean, just the simplicities of life. I hope that they have everything that they need and then some. Their cups runneth over.
So, how do you think your family is feeling about all this?
Just as you are, I'm sure, full of questions, and just as I am, wanting to see what does the justice system determine in a fair and just trial.
Okay, Mr. Pearson, we are running out of time. We only have 2 minutes left. Is there anything else you want to say, about that night, about that day, to the victims, to the public, to me even?
First and foremost, this information wouldn't get out if it wasn't for your team, Ms. Reagan, so thank you all for your broadcasting team, everything that you all do, and if there's anything else that you have questions about, again, as I mentioned, you have my word that as soon as I have permission from my counsel to speak with you or anyone on your team, you will specifically get the information and receive it from me. You have my word on that.
Thank you. And do you know when your trial date will be? Do you have any idea?
Same on that process. I'm still waiting to hear back. So I've requested to speak with counsel. Again, there are some, as we approach the weekend, there are going to be some limitations. I may be able to get a visit tomorrow, but if not, it may roll over to next week.
Awesome. Thank you for meeting with me today, Mr. Pearson. We really
Likewise.
appreciate that. We really just wanted to share your side of the story and get your perspective on things that happened. If there's nothing else you have to say, you're welcome to leave the call.
It's my privilege, Ms. Reagan, and Channel 7 team. I wish you all well. Godspeed to you all as well.
Thank you. You as well.